Fails, reboot. I have to do that. I want to fails. Use a back. Are you fine?
All right, so welcome, and I'm Natalie Lichtenbert, and I'm here today with our Green Dolphin. My manager is here, Director Andre. So we'll begin with some introductions. Sturgeon and splash, and what's the connection? A little paleontology, and then what is Green Dolphin Project Global? The why and the how, our research, microplastic children's education, our cleanups, our campaigns such as wildlife trafficking, and our global pollinator initiative. So let's get started. So as you know, the sturgeon fish group is comprised of 28 different species belonging to the family Esteemed. Our character Sturgeon was chosen to represent our freshwater species whose lives depend on good water quality. Being that this family of fish has been around since the late Cretaceous period, he is the perfect example of the possible longevity of certain species if certain conditions are met. They have earned the name living fossils. With their evolution being exceptionally slow, they have a high tolerance to wide temperature ranges and salinities, as they can be found in both fresh and salt water. Other factors for their lack of evolution include the fact that they have a very long lifespan with maturity that occurs at a later age.
What's it like?
I don't know, but I can look it up.
Years.
So, being that they haven't had a major predator until man, their ability to thrive on our planet went unhindered. Now, as you know, they are often harvested for their roe, which is considered a delicacy. As we know, sturgeons are bony fish, not cartilaginous like sharks, although they don't really have true bone. Now they are highly valuable for various reasons, especially the caviar producing varieties. They are considered the most valuable and endangered of all wildlife resources.
It's just these bad.
So this is an awesome video that my great friend Lana Smithson took just last year, actually. And per Lana, it was such a great treat to see the sturgeon up close while doing a cleanup dive in the Saco River in Maine.
I don't know. Let me show it.
So he is supposed to be swimming.
Is it embedded?
Yes.
Don't I eat it when we do it?
Just imagine him swimming.
Just imagine him swimming. So we're going to talk about the dolphin. The symbolic dolphin was chosen to represent the ocean or saltwater. They are, after all, a charismatic character that many people enjoy. And quite a newer creature on this planet when compared to the sturgeon fish. Dolphins first appeared as fossils from the early Miocene epoch, 23 million to 16 million years ago, a time when the cetacean fauna was more diverse. I chose the Green Dolphin Project Global for my nonprofit as it combines this charismatic symbol with our green way of thinking. We stand for protecting water and all animals, big and small, in terms of water quality, pollution, safety, and more. So as a team based in Chicago, we also stand together to prevent wildlife trafficking, and now we're working on pollinators. So this can also, we've become like a water-based nonprofit, but we're extending to all wildlife because I am open to any campaign that'll save animals. So this one will work.
Somebody. What was that?
I was saying so cute. I took this video while in Bimini just 2.5 years ago. This beautiful dolphin just casually swam by, greeting me with a happy hello.
That's cool.
Dolphins are one of my favorite animals, because they're just so happy.
We don't know.
They look.
Come on, don't destroy the screen, please.
Yeah, I live in a fantasy world, okay? So that's how I stay happy. So recently, the Alliance for the Great Lakes has announced that 86% of all Great Lakes litter is plastic. But where is the plastic coming from? Larger pieces are coming from recreation, grain bags, noodles, and plastic trash in general. Wastewater treatment plants can dump microplastics from our washer and body products into the lakes.
Well, we dump it in the Chicago River here.
Yes.
Cool.
So it's everywhere, basically. So it's floating in the air, in the water runoff, and sewer runoff. Some of the biggest culprits are cigarette butts, plastic bags, packaging materials, and single-use disposable items. So I will say this is just part of the pollution problem that also involves chemicals, agriculture release, invasive species, air pollution, etc. So we're up against a lot.
Yeah.
So to go over a little paleontology, blue whales can eat up to, I'm slide ahead. Blue whales can eat up to 10 million microplastic pieces per day, which is about 43.6 kilograms, or the weight of a 13-pound human, or 13-year-old human. Humpback whales can eat about 200,000 microplastic pieces per day.
There.
Fin whales can eat between 3 million and 10 million microplastic pieces per day. So locally, the recent IISG, which is the Illinois-Indiana Sea Grant, funded research at Loyola University, has shown that fish in 3 Lake Michigan tributaries are ingesting microplastics. Biologists John Kelly and Tim Holland found that 85% of the fish tested contain, on average, at least 13 pieces of microplastic in their digestive tract. So we're talking like the smaller fish, so not like the bigger fish.
That's the evil tribe.
So a little bit of paleontology, because we also love dinosaurs and the whole history behind these reptiles and sea creatures. Inspiring the minds of creatives and fantasy today, marine sea monsters were reptilian dinosaurs that transitioned to water. Over 60 million years ago, super predators such as the ichthyosaurs, plesiosaurs, and mosasaurs roamed the seas. This guy is especially evil, so I was watching some videos today on YouTube, and he can do a lot of killing. So just look up, killing. Plesiosaurus, that's the one to look up. So during the Mesozoic era, 252 to 66 million years ago, there were at least 500 species belonging to the 10 or so orders of reptiles. In fact, new ones are discovered every year through the fossils. The only so-called marine reptiles left today are the crocodile, one lizard, and a few turtles and some snakes. Check out this mosasaurus. So almost all aquatic marine dinosaurs were carnivores, with very few plant eaters. So it's hard to imagine something like this in our world today. As we know, there is an accumulative effect of pollution, leaving carnivores the most susceptible to its effects through the being on the hierarchy of the feeding web. So could that possibly be why we have more plant-eating marine creatures these days? I don't know. It's my hypothesis.
Fish.
So how long would these sea creatures have survived in today's world, aside from the fact that first they would have been harvested or persecuted?
Person.
Or they would have eaten us. No, we would have
Too soft.
Let's go.
So we recently went to Illinois Dinosaur Museum in Indiana, and they had this skeleton.
Illinois Dinosaurs Museum.
Indiana Dinosaur Museum. It just opened last year.
Okay.
Where is it located?
It is in South Bend.
Okay.
So it's amazing. It's like a whole day event because obviously it's a huge museum with a lot of interactive games and things that you can do and learn. They have scientists there working on the fossils as you speak.
And it's attached to a chocolate factory.
It's attached to a chocolate factory. They have an outdoor hiking area that has bison and all kinds of wildlife. And it's on the Continental Divide. So I highly recommend it.
With Wyoming, it's associated with the university, and they have a living lab where you can go in and actually see them too.
Yeah. This place has like a counter where the scientists are actually working, and then they discuss what they're doing. So it's pretty interesting.
They had thoughts.
So this is a fossilized archelon. It's an extinct marine turtle from the late Cretaceous period. It's the largest turtle ever to be documented, with the biggest specimen measuring 4.6 meters from head to tail.
Wow.
So, Archelon was much larger than today's sea turtles, and some species may have been over 15 feet long. It had a hooked beak and powerful jaws that were likely used to crush hard-shell crustaceans and mollusks, but may have also been adapted for shearing fish. The increasing threat of egg or hatchling predation by new marine or mammalian species may have led to the extinction of the Archelon. They also lived in the western interior seaway, which may have shrunk over time.
Where was the western interior seaway located?
Does anybody know?
Gotta Google it. What is it? Western Interior?
Western interior seaway.
So,
So needless to say, a species such as sharks were major predators to these very large turtles.
but
So what animals lived during the time of dinosaurs that still exist today? The first animal, of course, that comes to mind is sharks. So these oceanic predators that haunt your nightmares have been in the oceans for about 450 million years, well before dinosaurs even arrived on the scene, and they've survived 4 of the 5 big extinction events. So it's hard to imagine now, but during the Cretaceous period, they were likely prey to the immense Spinosaurus. Other animals that also existed during this time of the dinosaurs, or even from before, include crocodiles, sea stars, the platypus, green sea turtles, and, of course, cockroaches. I guess we're going to see this again.
I like sharks.
Obviously, that was at Tiger Beach,
it's there.
It's dead.
Tiger Beach is where?
Bahamas.
Summer feet.
So let's get back to Green Dolphin Project Global, what we're all about, and our current initiatives.
It's slugs. So,
So we are all things water and all things wildlife, from pollution to wildlife trafficking to pollination. And I added the wildlife trafficking. We have a girl that's involved on our team that is really passionate about it. And of course, we live so close to O'Hare Airport, which is now the second largest airport in the world, it was reported.
Really?
It was just, I just heard it on the news today.
Second largest?
Yeah,
yes.
maybe the busiest.
Probably busy. Well, I was gonna share that article with animal trafficking too.
Oh, yeah.
I signed an article because of other exports and whatever.
From human-caused climate change issues, mitigating waste pollution, pollination, to providing sustainable ecotourism, because we do our own tours that we invite you to. Our goal is to help people to understand more about our water systems and how they're connected, because we are in Chicago, which is a very landlocked area, but we have access to Lake Michigan and all the Great Lakes, but then also going down to the Mississippi River, which then goes down to the Gulf of Mexico, so we are all connected.
Great Lord Secret.
So when you say wildlife trafficking, you're referring to illegal trade.
Yeah.
Stealing, yes.
Poaching.
Well,
So, so I'm a little bit nervous. Andrew's going to have to teach me how to use a gun, I think, but just in case. But I like to get people involved on a deeper level through action, both locally and globally, because I feel if people are getting more involved, then it's really eye-opening to see what's going on, which we learned in Mexico, right? So one of our biggest goals is to tackle microplastic pollution through education, research, and action. As you guys know, this is probably an overview. So what are microplastics? They are 5 millimeters or smaller, and they're most dangerous type of plastics than even the larger plastics. So I've been trying to get grants to do my research, and that's what started this whole onslaught of microplastic work that I've done. So as we know, microplastics have been found in just about every nook and cranny possible.
then
So this is a quote from Matt Simon, who wrote the book A Poison Like No Other, which I do recommend. Microplastics have infested every corner of the earth, from the highest mountains to the deepest seas. They're in our food, our water, indoor air, and bodies. So where do they come from? being that of course, they come from everywhere. We can't even say how long they take to decompose, but estimates are greater than thousands of years, if ever. So obviously, as humans, we haven't been around long enough to do the studies. So avenues of entering our water systems is stormwater runoff, our washing machines, tires, degradation of larger plastics. So just on the fact of, on the subject of washing machines, there was legislation for the state of Illinois that they were trying to pass to get filters into our washing machines, and it did not go through this year, so they're going to try to push it through the next legislative season next fall.
Yeah, a lot of your polyesters.
Polyester is pure plastic.
Yeah.
A lot
So-
of our fabrics are.
Right, so
And also the microfiber towels that basically
exactly.
they are the bags that you can wash them and it's supposed to give you chicks that.
Try to buy cotton clothes.
Right.
Yeah.
Organicon.
Horrible.
So effects on human health, we know that they get embedded into our system. They can cause pulmonary disease, including bronchitis and pneumonia and cancer. Endocrine disrupting chemicals, they disrupt our endocrine system, our hormones. Obviously, there is a ton of research still going on with this. It's a very new topic, hot topic. So plastics are in the blood, the gut, and the brain. Plastics, as you know, they're pathogenic attractants called the biofilms. So any type of plastic will attract bacteria like a magnet. It creates a nice surface for them to build colonies. So obviously, there's a lot of research to find just how dangerous these microplastics are. So 700,000 tiny microplastic fibers come off clothes in just one load of laundry. And if you're like me, I love to do laundry, so I'm a big culprit. So we need to still the water filter. But
And what do you do with the filters?
you have to send it back to the manufacturer, and then they dispose of it in a landfill, I think. But so there is no perfect answer.
But at least it's contained.
At least it's contained and not getting into our water systems.
Sorry.
So, going through the wastewater treatment system, I know that they are not filtered out of our water system completely. So, as you know, fish will mistake the plastics for food. Megafauna, such as whales, sharks, feed on plankton swimming through the ocean with their mouths wide open. So they take in basically anything that's in their pathway, gallons of water and everything within. Sea turtles unintentionally consume the plastic in the open ocean when they mistake the single-use plastic bags for jellyfish and brightly colored plastics as plant material.
I've mistaken plastic bags of jellyfish. Well, what you bite into?
Well, that explains it. That explains it.
And we did in the Philippines see so many sea turtles, and there was a bunch of plastic there, so
Same thing with Indonesia.
yeah. So I actually saw more plastic there than I do when diving in Florida, so
Indonesia too. The people are they're trying to educate people to not get rid of plastic because you could see a lot of in the ocean. And Charles will vouch for this. And Dean too, that there was a lot of plastic just floating by.
yeah, you can see it.
No, not the divers.
Cruise ships dump it.
Right.
It was made to from the
So you had to work cut out for us.
because of those
I need more team members.
saying that was made the machine.
So plastics do not obviously degrade rapidly, but they photodegrade, a process that breaks them down into smaller microplastics with exposure to sunlight. So we've worked with the Shedd Aquarium to collect and measure microplastics off the shores of Lake Michigan, and the numbers of plastic collected was astounding. So our research, and this is my project that I'm trying to get funding for, is detection, data, and documentation. Yes. So let's talk about this.
Okay.
So my research, it revolves around biosolids. So biosolids are the product that comes from the wastewater treatment system. It's the sludge that actually comes out, and it's used as fertilizer.
Nice.
So much of the tiny plastics are caught in the filters, though not all of them. So this material, the biosolids, are then dried, cleaned, treated, and then sold or given away as fertilizer for local agriculture and communities.
And golf courses.
There is a problem with sludge that comes from us then.
So yes, this material contains microplastic, and yes, this material is being used to fertilize our crops.
Not just microplastic.
Yeah.
Heavy metals.
No, because I work for the district.
Yeah. Can we
And
play
when
with the
they-
sticker speech? Yeah.
I don't mind interactive.
It's a nice interaction.
Well, what they did is we would always get biosolids and test for heavy metals, and it had to pass before they
Yeah.
were allowed to be released. So we did our testing
Okay.
on heavy metals. Now, I don't know about microplastics. That wasn't within our...
Yeah, I love it. It's a scope.
Yeah.
So basically,
Here we go. That's what
through
I
the
said.
wastewater treatment plant, there's two treatments. There's a primary treatment that consists of removing the contaminants by some sort of physical mechanism, and then a secondary treatment that usually employs a biological process whereby a large population of microorganisms help convert the remaining organic material into other forms, which can then be easily separated into solids and a clear liquid. So in putting my project together, I got a copy of the regulations for these biosolids, 40 CFR Part 503. So I noticed.
That's headed to the wood chipper right
So the copy of the regulations that I received from my local waste treatment plant, this is just recently. The revision number on that was from July of 2003. So they're 22 years old, which tells me that there's very old data being used for these regulations.
We weren't concerned with microplastics when I worked there, and I think I retired from there in 2012.
That's south.
So biosolids are classified as either Class A or Class B. Class A biosolids are termed EQ biosolids, referring to exceptional quality. So, but there is concern over the effect of pathogens from biosolids on animal health, especially in light that human pathogens can cross species lines and infect animals, most particularly warm-blooded animals.
Question there. We used to take not only biosolids for trace metal analysis, which is what you talk about heavy metals, but it would also be sent to the virology lab and the other labs.
Micro?
For testing too, yeah. For microbes, there'd be microbiology and also virology lab. We had labs that are testing.
And you said there are two kinds. You said EQ. What was the other kind?
Just Class B.
It's Class B, okay.
So, because of this concern, the 503 regulations require that sewer sludge undergoes pathogen treatment prior to land application. Obviously, Class A biosolids go through a more rigorous protocol, and Class B biosolids are site restricted. So they have very little research has been done regarding animal exposure to biosolid application. It is thought that agriculture animals would have a higher exposure. So general approaches to controlling pathogens and vector attraction in sewer sludge includes high temperatures, radiation, chemical disinfectants, reduction of the sewer sludge's volatile organic matter, and then removal of moisture from the sludge.
Right.
Through various methods, the sludge is tested and reported for various organisms with the EPA, giving limit ranges of acceptability. So the density is defined as and reported as the number of microorganisms per unit mass of total dry solids. So these regulations are very lengthy. They're like this thick. And I still have them in my room. And yet, looking at this, there are still a lot of unknowns and way more research needs to be done. So for us and my project, focusing on the risks that we find valuable and important to human life and animal life. So one health risk with the land applications of biosolid is the potential exposure to pathogens. So as I mentioned, that the plastics are magnets for bacteria. And because these organisms are going through the waste treatment plants, we are wanting to look for certain bacteria, protozoas, and viruses. So we will be determining the pathogenicity of microplastic particles present in the biosolids. So what makes my project unique, it is done from the consumer's point of view. So it's after it's gone through the rigorous testing and it's been delivered to the customer.
Biosolids done before it's dried or after it's dried?
It's the consumer, so it's after it's dried and it's delivered. So We will be obtaining biosolid material. And then through a partnership with the University in Arizona, the biosolid material will have microplastics removed in such a way as not to disturb the particles. And then I will be culturing them on microbiological plates to determine the growth of any stool pathogens such as Shigella, Salmonella, Campylobacter, and Vibrio. As you know, these are some of the 4 most common stool pathogens that can be found in humans. So I used to work in a virus and microbiology lab, so this was
that's kind of.
very common for us to work on.
I
So,
didn't work there. I worked in trace metals.
so any,
Yeah, but I'll you should add CDF as well because that's particularly difficult to kill.
Going there and for pathogenic, it's becoming.
it can't be cultured on plates though.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know.
So,
That's interesting. Then how do they discover them if they're not able to be cultured?
I used to do ELISA on stool every day.
What?
I used to do enzyme-linked immunoabsorbent assays. So it's a color reaction where you add the stool sample and then you add some chemicals and then you get a color change. It'll turn yellow if it's positive. So then I would actually all I would need to do is visually look at the plates and I could see which samples were yellow and know that that patient was positive for C. diff. So yeah, it's crazy because they would have patients would have to have 3 negative C. diff samples before they could be released, and they literally would send a sample at 11:59 p.m. and then 12:01 a.m. thinking it was like 2 different days, and it's like no, it's got to be 24 hours apart. So, but yeah, I used to work in the micro and the virus lab, so I used to work with all kinds of human fluids.
What's that?
Was it in a hospital or what?
I used to work at Elmhurst Hospital.
That's kind of neat.
So what happened with my job there is because I was a virus lab supervisor and then everything went to PCR or genetic testing. So then all the virus testing went to PCR and they shut down my virus lab. So, but I did help to start up the PCR lab, which was fun. So, yes. Through these specific plates that I'm using, the microbiologic agar plates, as you guys know, for looking for these stool samples, I will then isolate the colonies if I find any positive bacteria for the 4 species. So then these I would send to my cohorts at the hospital where they do a MALDI TOV confirmation. So they'll actually take the colony, they'll put it in a mixture and stick it in instruments, and then they can do the confirmation testing to determine which organism it is. So preventing this issue, what as individuals can we do now to not add to the problem, but rather to help solve it? And you guys have already been mentioning things. So get a filter for your washing machine. While this is not a perfect solution, every little bit helps.
How do you get?
There's, yeah.
And where do you hook it up? Where the water comes out?
In the back of the washing machine. So probably Andre would know better.
Discharge.
Discharge line. It's just a filter that goes in and you just hang it back. It goes. It collects some.
And is there indication once it's full, or you just replace it X number of months?
Yeah, right now it's just on a turn.
Okay.
Basis 11 once a month, once every 2 weeks, depending on the size.
Okay, one of the microplastic filters for our washing machines are available from companies such as Planet Care. So that's one company you can look up online. So the long term is that we are looking at legislation. So I'll talk more about legislation later. As you know that these microplastics used to be added to cosmetics and soaps, but in 2015, they were removed nationwide. So statewide, California has passed an extensive piece of legislation that is very encompassing in nature and the first in the nation. So California is always the first and the model in terms of environmental legislation. So it includes pollution prevention, pathway prevention, this is all for plastics, public outreach and education, risk assessment, so monitoring and the engagement for future activities. So it's pretty all-encompassing. So long-term, and we are an affiliate of the Coalition for Plastic Reduction, If you want to become a part of this Coalition for Plastic Reduction or just to receive their emails, there's nothing to pay. Just send an email to plastic@list.illinoisenviro.org to be added to their listserv.
Stay there. Don't.
No problem. So it's a pretty active listserv, and they give very rigorous emails on what the legislation is, action items that you can do. They specifically give you posts that you can just copy and share to people, making it very easy to share and get the information out there. They also have meetings that you can become more actively involved in helping the decision process of what legislation the state of Illinois is actually going to focus on. So long term, you want to choose clothing that are made with organic, sustainable materials such as cotton, hemp, and bamboo.
What about wool and silk?
Yeah.
And that's how.
So I have a class already put together and ready to go. Microplastic class for kids. It contains a wet portion, or rather a dry portion comes first, where the kids get a lecture on basic information about plastic pollution and microplastics. And then there's a wet portion where we actually get a water sample. We put it through filter paper, and then we look at it under a microscope, where microplastics actually fluoresce under the black light. So my first classes will be held online in Mexico. Through a connection I made with Cenotes Urbanos, I'm going to be doing children's education to the Mexican children who do understand English. And then on the other end, my contact there will be doing the wet portion where the kids can actually play with the water samples and see the microplastics for themselves. So I'm also offering this obviously in our area. I did have a few classes set up for local libraries, but I had some personal issues come up, so I wasn't able to fulfill them, but hopefully in the near future I'll be able to set those up again.
Now, just to get on that list, sir, will we hear about those?
If you become a part of my list, then you can hear about that.
Okay, but that wasn't the list you put up there.
Correct.
Okay,
So my list is actually, I have a paper list right there for people to put their name and email address, but please write very clearly so that I can put you on my updates list. I do have a QR code at the end of this that I think works, but just in case I do have paper and pen there. And then I do have stickers. That's you. Okay, thank you. The paper is a little bit hard to pull off, and then I have my business card. So we do have cleanups, and we did 2 last year. We did 1 locally. So the first one that we did was with Chicago Scuba Meetup in Evanston, Illinois. So we helped clean up the Dempster Greenwood Street Beach, which was a lot of fun, and Dean was there. So nestled in Illinois, Evanston, Illinois, this residential beach is enjoyed by residents for swimming, sailing, and more.
We do this every year in conjunction with the International Coastal Freedom Day. That is through the Alliance for the Great Lakes.
So you got to get that date this year, like ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's usually the third. Isn't it the third Sunday or Saturday of September?
Yeah, but so we collect data, so we're not just picking up stuff. I mean, we have to keep count of
We have
what
to
we
count.
pick up.
That's mostly
And we turn that data in, and that's the type of data that leads to certain types of, like for instance, the abolition of smoking on the beach comes from data like this, because you find a lot of what they're picking up for cigarettes.
Yes.
Which is just pure plastic pollution. Yep. And but anyway, why can't I smoke outdoors? That's because you're throwing your butt out the sand. It's going to stay there forever. Everybody else has to deal with it.
The birds are gonna eat it.
This past January, we did a cleanup in Mexico where we worked with Cenotes Urbanos and an excellent dive company called Go Dive Mex, located out of Playa del Carmen. Just outside the central tourist shopping area, we cleaned an area highly contaminated with all sorts of trash just off the local intersection. So about 50 yards off of the intersection was a cave, also heavily filled with garbage that people obviously living in that, people were obviously living in that space, so we kind of got rid of their home. But the amount of trash that we picked up was crazy. We had A ton of people come. This was not actually all of them, but we had so many people come. I think we were there for 4 hours, and we were working the whole time. There was so much trash just in this one little area. So it was pretty incredible. These pictures don't do it justice, but this was before. Oh, it's a video.
There's a cave that meets the cenotes back in there just about 20 or 30 feet.
Yeah.
Is this a dumping ground? People dump directly in, or just trash galleys there?
They were basically, it looks like they were just dumping it on this corner.
There's a school. It's a school right next door.
Yeah.
Well, Chicago was like that until Earth Day, and after all,
Yeah.
is like that.
Well, it depends on what area.
It used to be very crowded.
It used to be a lot, but
Yeah, it was really bad.
So, and then this is the after, a close-up picture of the after, where we got a huge majority of the garbage. So we got all things from water filters, and then diapers, what others?
Flip flops.
Yeah, I mean, we got basically everything disgusting was there. On YouTube, I have my own YouTube channel called Green Dolphin Project Global, obviously. And there is a recent episode where I did all about this cleanup that's pretty interesting. And we have cenotes urbanos talking about the whole area and stuff like that. So it's pretty interesting. So I highly recommend it. Okay, going on to wildlife trafficking, advocating for animals' rights and protections. So this is our 3-part initiative where we do awareness, advocacy, and action. So phase 1 through advocacy, we will create tangible materials for dissemination, social media content, and then blog posts. And then I will be doing a YouTube episode. So like I mentioned, please check out our website, greendolphinproject.org, and then also our YouTube channel. So our blogs are written by Teresa Detloff. You guys may know her. She is, I think, a member of Chicago Scuba Meetups. She does a lot of diving in the area. And she is heavily interested in wildlife trafficking, so she leads that initiative for us. And she's also our legal advisor. She's excessively smart. So, and then advocacy. So, in terms of advocacy, we just had a meeting last week with somebody from the Akumal Monkey Sanctuary. Akumal Monkey Sanctuary, that actually they're noticing that spider monkeys are one of the most heavily trafficked animals in Mexico, and they're being brought to the United States. And the AZA, or the American Zoological Association, they are involved in recapturing these spider monkeys and then rehabilitating them if necessary, and then sending them back to Mexico. However, there is a huge disconnect between the monkeys being sent to Mexico, and there is zero record of them being received back into Mexico. So Teresa and I are going to be on the hunt to discover what is going on with these animals.
so much spider monkeys native down there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're also, they're not going extinct, but they're not very common. Yeah. So phase 3 action, we're just going to be working on getting people more involved in this campaign. We're still figuring that out. So this is a new campaign we started within the last 6 months. I do recommend on our website, greendolphinproject.org, that we have a blog, and there are several blogs now about wildlife trafficking.
You know what? I don't see this on the internet, but like kids at my school tell me there's this little tiny monkey called the pygmy marmoset, and I guess they're called pocket monkeys. Like,
Or finger monkeys or something, yeah.
yeah, like buying on the internet. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of exotic animals that people shouldn't be having. So,
Yeah.
just in the past month, I started a global pollinator initiative. So through LinkedIn, I hooked up with a girl from Spain, and she's heavily concerned about the monarch butterflies in Spain. So
They have them in Spain.
I know. So that's why.
I didn't know that.
Right.
Special migration path there too.
Oh, they're also getting off track and getting there. So I think that's how their population started. So if you know about me, I'm heavily involved in monarch butterfly conservation around here. I'm part of.
I was wondering about what to take.
So I'm part of the Illinois Monarch Project, and I just wanted to mention on May 3rd, when you guys are doing the first day of diving, that there is also a monarch butterfly conference at the Brookfield Zoo on May 3rd. From 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So I'll also be speaking there on sustainability, and there's a lot of guest speakers. There's booths, there's giveaways, there's games. We have trading cards. So
you can't make it to Hay Quarry.
to make it to the Brookfield Zoo.
Week, if you will. I heard there's some that are good for the environment, some that don't work.
Basically, you want to plant any milkweed that is native to your area. So around here, common milkweed and then swamp milkweed is good. So you would just go onto a United States map and look up your gardening area and see what milkweed is native to your area. So you do not want to plant non-native milkweed, but you also need to plant other pollinator plants so that the animals have food throughout the year. As you know, the monarch butterfly only will lay its eggs on milkweed. So if there's no milkweed, there's no monarchs. So last year was a horrible year in terms of butterflies. There were not very many, and they were in line to get on the Endangered Species Act, and they were denied. So possibly in November this year, they will be put on the endangered species list. I know a lot of monarch butterfly advocates are very angry about that because they love to raise their monarchs and release them and use them for education. I mean, I know people that release hundreds of monarchs every summer, and if they go on the extinction list, then they will not be able to harvest those eggs to raise them. So, and then obviously I don't recommend buying the eggs because those are like non-native monarchs. They're not like wild monarchs. So, but they, you know, I can teach your kids about monarchs if you want to teach them. So just to tell you about my team is growing, so I'm very proud of my team, and everybody is a very active participant, and I could not be more proud. So my managing director, my boyfriend is here, Andre Grieber. Teresa Detloff, as I mentioned, is my legal advisor, my wildlife trafficking lead. Lori Dye is my scientific director. My new member is Palma Bejarano Ray, and she is my Director of International Conservation. She'll be leading that Global Pollinator Initiative. And then Chrissy Christian is my Education Director. And then our partnerships include the Coalition for Plastic Reduction, the Illinois Environmental Council, and Mission Blue. So do reach out to us. I want people to get as much involved as possible. Please put your name on the paper list, or you could try the QR code. I think it works. Please work.
That's okay. Sure.
But I do have paper, and we will. It worked?
Yeah, it works.
Oh! So we will be doing more get-togethers like cleanups locally, and then we will be putting together trips which incorporates an environmental conservation action portion, but then also some fun such as diving. So please reach out to us. I am just so happy and excited about this. So during the pandemic, I was a part of 7 different nonprofits because I was so passionate about conservation. It was so exciting. And then as the pandemic ended, you know, people started disappearing, and then I found that I was doing all the work. So I'm like, why am I doing all the work? I'm just going to start my own nonprofit, and then I do all the work, and then it's mine. So
And in our Mexico trip, we